Good afternoon. The government is due to formally announce a visa scheme tomorrow that will make it easier for foreign drivers to work in the UK. It's expected the temporary plan will allow visas for about 5,000 drivers to tackle the HGV driver shortage, which has led to supply problems at some petrol stations and other businesses. The Road Haulage Association estimates the UK is short of about 100,000 HGV drivers in total. Let's go to our correspondent Peter Harris, who's at a petrol station near Leeds. Peter.
Yeah, I'd say it's busy but manageable here. It's certainly not scenes of chaos or huge queues. They have actually brought some marshals in here just to keep order, which it certainly has been. I would reckon here in Leeds, it's about 10 minutes to get through the petrol station and get your petrol. And that's a picture we're getting really from many of the retailers. Sainsbury's saying, yes, it's busy, but only a tiny number of forecourts actually closed. BP, well, they closed about 20, but that's out of 1,200. And that broader message from the government this afternoon that there is plenty of fuel in the country if people just stick to their regular buying habits. Obviously, it is the case. Many drivers have been a bit spooked in the last 24 hours about the possibility of shortages, and that's why we're braced this weekend for some kind of announcement from the government, possibly temporary visas for maybe 5,000 more HGV drivers into the country. But as you can see here in Leeds, busy but manageable.
Thank you, Peter. Well, here's a report from our business reporter, Katie Austin.
People have been told not to panic buy. There's no shortage of fuel itself. But again this morning, there were queues at petrol stations.
Absolute mayhem. Nobody can get past, nobody can get in.
EG Group, which operates 400 sites, has set a £30 per customer limit. The initial problems experienced by BP were due to a shortage of lorry drivers. It's thought the UK has a shortfall of tens of thousands.
There's a range of factors now. Brexit is definitely one of them. The pandemic, as you mentioned, played its part. The change to the off-payroll working regulations, IR35, that played a significant part. But the general problem has been around and known about for 10 to 15 years or more. And the ageing driver workforce retiring, we're not replacing them with the younger workers.
Wages are rising as firms try to attract staff, but freight and retail groups say more action is needed to plug the gap while a bigger UK workforce is grown. For months, the government has resisted calls to introduce a temporary visa scheme for foreign drivers, but it is now expected to announce one tomorrow. With 5,000 visas available, there'll also be a raft of longer-term measures.
While that is really good news from the government, we do have to realise as an industry that that is a very short-term fix, and with the view to getting EU drivers back into the UK to help the Christmas retail season. Beyond that, what are the government going to do? What are the industry also going to do to try and prevent this happening again?
The business group, the CBI, said it was welcome but late.
It's a big relief. Hopefully it is going to happen, and it's a huge relief. We've been calling for it for 3 months. We could see this problem coming and more problems coming, and so it's a shame the government needed queues at the pumps to move, but move, I hope they have, and it will help.
The UK isn't the only country experiencing shortages. It's unclear how many overseas drivers will apply for a visa and how soon. Businesses just want things to improve before the crucial Christmas period. Katie Austin, BBC News.
The Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer is understood to have watered down his proposals to change the voting rules for future leadership elections. They would have given MPs a greater say over who wins. But the plans have run into opposition from trades unions. The party is gathering in Brighton for its annual conference. Here's our political correspondent, Ione Wells.
A crucial moment for Sir Keir Starmer to set out his stall.
This government is letting people down so badly, whether it's hammering working people on tax and universal credit, whether it's shortages of food and fuel.
An embarrassing start on rule changes, though, Sir Keir.
Interrupting his pitch, though, are tensions within the party itself. He and his deputy leader, Angela Rayner, wanted to spend today talking about their plan to set minimum standards for pay and conditions for different sectors, starting with social care.
It's about, a fair day's pay for a fair day's work, and it's about making sure that work does always pay and that there's minimum floors so that the unscrupulous employers that are undercutting those that are trying to do the right thing are taken out of the market.
But there's been rain on their announcement. The leader was forced to withdraw his plans to give MPs and unions more say in future leadership contests after a backlash from the left of the party.
The Labour leadership should get real. People out there want us addressing the real issues that they're facing in their lives, the threat that they now have to their well-being and the quality of their life. That's what we should be doing.
An alternative package of reforms was put to the party's ruling committee, the NEC, this morning and passed. The left are still likely to see these as further attempts to decarbonise the party, but allies of Sir Keir see the changes as a way to prevent more internal rows and focus outwards as he faces the climb ahead to the next election. Ione Wells, BBC News.
Let's go to Ian Watson, who's in Brighton for us now. Ian, how important is this conference for Sir Keir Starmer?
Hugely important. He's got to project himself to sceptical voters way beyond this conference hall. But it looks as though internal rows are going to dominate this weekend. In the past few minutes, he got the backing of his ruling National Executive for a watered-down package of reforms, but still a very significant package of reforms. So, for example, in future leadership contests, in order to get onto the ballot in the first place, candidates would need the backing of 20% of Labour MPs, not meant that last time round Keir Starmer would have been the only candidate. It would have prevented Jeremy Corbyn from getting onto the ballot in the first place. So the left of his party are absolutely infuriated by this. They will be debated tomorrow here in Brighton and they are going to resist it. So everything else he wants to do to try to project himself as a leader in touch with working people is likely to be overshadowed by that row.
Thank you, Ian. A book of condolence has been opened in South London in memory of the primary school teacher Sabina Nessa, who was attacked and killed a week ago. Hundreds of people gathered for an emotional candlelit vigil in Kidbrooke last night. A 12-year-old boy has died at an indoor ski centre in the West Midlands. Ambulance crews were called to the Snow Dome in Tamworth yesterday evening following reports a child had been hurt, but they were unable to save him. Police say a man is also being treated for injuries. An executive from the Chinese technology firm Huawei, who'd been held in Canada on fraud charges for 3 years, is on her way home. Meng Wanzhou was allowed to leave after reaching a deal with US prosecutors who originally requested her arrest. 2 Canadians held in China have also been freed. Now let's catch up with all the sport with Chetan Pathak at the BBC Sports Centre. Hi.
Hi, Joanna. Thank you. Good afternoon. The wait is nearly over for the biggest fight in Britain in more than 3 years. Anthony Joshua's 4 heavyweight belts will be on the line tonight when he takes on Alexander Usyk at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in front of more than 65,000 people as he hopes to become the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Adi Adedoyin reports.
No trash talking or tantrums, but big-time boxing is back. On Saturday, Anthony Joshua will aim to produce a punch-perfect performance in the biggest stadium fight in the UK since the pandemic.
I'm feeling happy. I'm feeling blessed. What an opportunity this is. I'm one of the lucky ones that get to go out there and perform. It is difficult, don't get me wrong. It comes with a lot of sacrifice, but as long as you apply yourself, you shouldn't have, not too much to worry about. We can't predict the outcome, but leading up to it, we should be confident.
So if he's the leading man in the show, what of his co-star Alexander Usyk? Happy to play the Joker, he turned up to Thursday's press conference dressed in a suit inspired by the movie character, eccentric and zany, but behind the smiles, a fierce and fiery competitor. Like Joshua, he's a gold medalist from London 2012 and the former undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world.
Usyk is, arguably the better boxer, the more skilled boxer in this fight, and he's had over 200 amateur fights. He's never been beaten. So, yeah, technically a really tough fight.
Usyk is blessed with great footwork and hand-eye coordination, though he's not the only one who can do that. Joshua was nearly 20 pounds heavier at yesterday's weigh-in, but who would that favour?
Some people seem to be operating under the belief that he's tiny, he's small. No, he's not. Joshua is a giant. He is a man mountain. This guy's big enough. He's just not Joshua proportions. But who is?
Well, there's little margin for error for Anthony Joshua. Lose, and it's not just his titles gone, but also a lucrative unification bout. Adi Adedoyin, BBC News, London.
Well, for the first time in his career, Rory McIlroy's been dropped from a Ryder Cup session and is sitting out today's foursomes at Whistling Straits in Wisconsin after the US opened up a record 6-2 lead. McIlroy was twice disappointed yesterday, beaten alongside Ian Poulter in the foursomes and with Shane Lowry in the four balls. Europe captain Podrick Harrington says despite their frustrations, the team gave it everything they could.
We're very happy with everybody's play. Ball striking, was there. Just hold a few more putts. Plenty of gutsy performances, so I'm comfortable with that. It's just a question of, a few things going right for us. Getting the odd break, there's no doubt about that.
And these are today's foursomes, the opening match, which sees America's Brooks Koepka and Daniel Berger face the Spanish pair Sergio Garcia and John Rahm, has just got underway. And there's live commentary now on BBC Radio 5 Live Sports Extra. And they're approaching half-time in the two lunchtime games in the Premier League with three of the top five in action. Manchester City at the early league leaders Chelsea, who beat them in the Champions League final last season. It's currently goalless at Stamford Bridge. Manchester United, who, like those two sides, also have a chance of being top of the table today, are playing Aston Villa at Old Trafford, where it's also currently 0-0. You can follow all of today's football on the BBC Sport website, including the Women's Super League with Everton playing Birmingham City. And you can keep up to date with the latest from the Russian Grand Prix. Qualifying is just underway in Sochi. That, though, is all your sport for now. Back to you, Joanna.
Thank you very much, Chetan. And that is all from us for now. The next news on BBC One is at 5:10. Until then, hope you have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.